Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spill the Pea. This week, we are diving into Vayigash. We'll start with the short summary and then we'll dive into the deeper meaning. So, here we go. So, we begin this week with Judah saying to Yosef, "May I speak with you? But please don't get mad because you're basically like the Pharaoh. But you asked us if we have a father and a brother, and we told you about our dad and our youngest brother. And then you asked us to bring our youngest brother. But back home, our dad asked us to buy more food, and we told him, we can't go back to this guy without our youngest brother." And of course, our dad was devastated because his wife bore him two sons. One of them is probably dead. And now you're asking for the second one. So if we go back to our dad without Benjamin now, he's probably going to die from devastation. So Yosef was like, "Everybody get out." So everyone left except for his brothers. And he finally reveals himself to his brothers. And he cries, and Egypt heard, and Pharaoh's house also heard his cries. And his brothers were speechless because they were in shock, obviously. So then Yosef calls them closer and he's like, "It's me, your brother Yosef. You all sold me to Egypt, but don't stress, don't feel bad because I was sent ahead by God to be a provider. We're only 2 years into this 7-year famine, so, God sent me ahead of you to make sure that you all survived. It wasn't you who sent me here, it was God. He made me the father to Pharaoh, a master of his whole house, and a ruler throughout the entire land of Egypt. So go up to my father and tell him that God made his son the master of all of Egypt. And then come back down here to me, and you all will live in Goshen, and I will provide for you there, so you all will be good for the rest of the famine. So go, tell my father everything, and then hurry up and come back here." So then he hugs Benjamin and he cries, and Benjamin also does the same. And then he kissed all of his brothers and he wept on them. So Pharaoh hears about all of this and he's pleased. And he tells Yosef to tell his brothers to load up everything, go to Canaan to their father, and then to come back, and that he would give them the best of the land of Egypt. And he also told them not to worry about their belongings because the best of Egypt would be waiting for them there. So all the brothers prepared to go, and Yosef gave them wagons and all sorts of provisions for their journey, and each of them got a change of clothes. But Benjamin received 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of clothing. And for his father, Yosef sent extra donkeys and food, and he told them not to get agitated along the way. So the brothers went up from Egypt and reached their father and told their father the whole story. And of course, Yaakov doesn't believe them. But then they told him what Yaakov said, and they showed him all of the gifts, and Yaakov's spirit was revived. And Israel says, "How amazing, my son is alive. I have to see him before I die." Then Israel begins the journey. They get to Beersheba, and God speaks to him, calling him, "Yaakov, Yaakov." And Yaakov says, "Hineni." And God says to him, "I'm the God of your fathers. Don't be afraid descending into Egypt. I'm going to establish you as a great nation, and I will descend with you to Egypt, and I will surely also bring you up. And Yosef will place his hand on your eyes." So after all of this, Yaakov and the sons, they gather all their belongings and their offspring into the wagons that Pharaoh had provided for them, and they went to Egypt. And then we're told that all of Yaakov's household that came to Egypt was a total of 70. And then they arrived in Goshen. So Yosef prepares his chariot and he goes to meet Israel, his father, in Goshen. So he got to Israel and he wept on his neck. And Israel says, "Now I can die after seeing your face because you're still alive." And Yosef told them that he would go to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh that all of them were cattlemen. And he told them that when Pharaoh comes to them, they should also say that they're cattlemen, and that they have been from youth so that they could settle in Goshen. So Yosef went with the least of his brothers to Pharaoh, and when Pharaoh asked, they told him that they were shepherds, and Pharaoh appointed them to the land of Goshen. And then he also told Yosef to appoint the most capable of men as chamberlains over Pharaoh's livestock. And then Yosef brings Yaakov to meet Pharaoh, and Yaakov blesses the Pharaoh. Pharaoh asks Yaakov, "How many are the days of the years of your life?" And Yaakov says, "The days of the years of my life have been 130. Few and bad have been the days of the years of my life, and they haven't reached the lifespans of my forefathers." Yaakov blesses the Pharaoh, and then he leaves. So we currently still have this whole famine going on. And so Yosef gathers all the money and he brings it to Pharaoh. But eventually, the people themselves exhaust all of their money. So they started coming to Yosef looking for more provisions. And Yosef tells them to bring their livestock in exchange for provisions. But then the following year, they came back and they told him, they're like, "Hey, listen, we have no money, we have no livestock, we only have our bodies and our land. So have us, and we'll be serfs for the Pharaoh's livestock, but at least we won't die." So Yosef basically ends up buying all of the land, and then he starts to resettle people in different parts of the land. And he gave them seeds to sow the land. And he said, "Okay, you guys are going to work the land. You're going to give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and then you'll keep the rest to survive." And this is where our story ends. Vayigash was relatively short. However, we've all heard the term small but mighty. So we go back to the beginning and we start with Vayigash elav Yehuda, and Judah stepped forth towards Yosef. Now, to get into the significance, we have to go back a little bit. In Miketz, if we recall, Reuben and Judah volunteered responsibility for Benjamin. However, the responsibility taken was very different. Reuben offered his sons as liability. Judah offered himself. He stood up and he took accountability for the action, and he also took accountability for the consequence. Judah is also the fourth son, and we know that 4 is the number of foundation. So now again we start. Vayigash elav Yehuda. Why is this approach so important? Because he had every reason to approach Yosef with shame or dishonor or guilt. But Judah stood with his head held high. He explained the situation to Yosef, and he took accountability for the word that he gave his father. We all walk through life treating our words as fleeting moments of sound. We understand the power of our words when we intend hurt or to gossip or to manipulate. And somehow we forget that same power when we give someone our word. Or maybe we don't forget the power of our words, but we lack the integrity and the self-worth to stand upright in the words that we say. Words were used by our Creator to create the truth of our very existence. And when we use words and we fail to take accountability for them, we create and bear witness to a fractured reality. Judah was showing us the importance of not taking any words in vain. And more importantly, he was showing us what it means to have honor. If you're bold enough to say it, be bold enough to deal with whatever comes after. And then we have Yosef coming out of the closet, so to speak. And we're told that he cries, and that Egypt hears his cries, and also Pharaoh's house hears his cries. When we finally step into our light and reveal truth, the deepest, darkest parts of us are accepted. And when we choose to accept the deepest parts of us that we keep hidden, containment is no longer a prison, it becomes a safe place. So now we come full circle, and Yosef is having a really real conversation with his brothers about the fact that they sold him. But I'd say this conversation went significantly better than the way that most people today would have handled it. We speak so much about Hineni and what that truly means. And Yosef remained present at the time that most people would have cracked under pressure. He didn't get upset with his brothers. He displayed absolutely zero hatred or anger or frustration towards them. He said, "You didn't sell me. God put me here to make sure that you all survived." It's totally a mic drop moment. Yosef lived in a complete state of Shabbat. He rested so heavily in the Creator that he had no other choice than to see everything as a part of a plan for light. How much of your life do you truly live in Shabbat? Resting your mind from creating scenarios about how this will work or how that's going to play out, allowing your mind to rest so that you are actually hineni, actually connected to the light of the Creator. It's funny how we've convinced ourselves that we're only supposed to live in a complete state of Shabbat one day out of each week. I didn't realize that our Creator maxed us out at 24 hours. Anyways, we move forward, and Yosef kisses his brother and he weeps on them. A kiss is a connection. It doesn't need to be romantic. However, it is an action taken when deep care is felt. A kiss is an exchange of energy. Just as you should be careful of what comes from your lips, you'd also be wise to be aware of where you place them. Water or tears are cleansing. So when Yosef is weeping on them, he's symbolically cleansing them of the wrong that they did to them. So many times when people do us dirty, we demand apologies or groveling of some sort. And this man was literally sold by his brothers and treated like trash, and he chose to kiss them and to weep for them. Forgiveness has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. Okay, so now we have the brothers receiving gifts and preparations to go back to their father. However, Benjamin receives more. If we remember in Miketz, Benjamin also received 5 times as much food as the brothers when they came to Yosef to eat. And now he's also receiving 5 changes of clothing. On the 5th day, we had the creation of sea creatures and air creatures. Creatures that can navigate divinity and remained aligned when navigating the earth. Benjamin also began as the son of pain and became the son of blessings. Benjamin is the transformation of pain into something useful in our purpose in life. Benjamin is the reminder that pain is only a seed if you so choose to see it that way. And again, we're told that they go up out of Egypt, up towards Keter, divinity, away from constriction. Divinity is infinite, and constriction is limitation. And when they went up and out, Yaakov's spirit was revived. And then something beautiful happens. Israel is talking to the Creator again, and the Creator is like, "Don't be afraid to go back to Egypt, because I will be with you, and I will surely bring you up out of there." Most of the time, we think our Creator leaves us when we enter dark places, but maybe He never leaves, and you just stopped believing that He was there. So we fast forward a bit, and Yosef finally sees his father, Israel, and Israel is like, "Wow, I can finally die because I know that you're okay." And Yosef tells them all that they need to tell Pharaoh that they're cattlemen, and they should just go along with the story. So how many people now are probably thinking, yeah, but, isn't that a lie? Is it lying to tell a child about the birds and the bees? Or is it compassionate because you're communicating in a way that they're able to comprehend at their current stage in life? Anyways, we fast forward and Yaakov meets Pharaoh and he gives him a blessing. And then Yosef continues to save all of Egypt during the famine. Vayigash is standing up. It's holding yourself accountable. It's not blaming others. It's being aligned. Alignment isn't only using your words wisely. Alignment is being in line with the Creator. Yosef had kind of an ugly life. But for as ugly as it was significantly more beautiful. And the only reason that we see the beauty in his story is because he chose to stay aligned. Was it easy? I'm sure not. Betrayal is never easy to deal with, especially when it comes from family who we believe are supposed to love us simply because they're blood. But betrayal has meaning when you choose to understand that the creator decided that this was the best way for your story to unfold. Alignment doesn't mean that things will look perfect necessarily, but it does mean that whatever shadows and darkness I see with my eyes are minimal compared to the light that the creator is going to emerge in my life. The more accountable you hold yourself, the more honesty you choose, the more aligned you can be. And alignment is how you step fully into your power as the unique emanation of the light of the Creator. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.